Hey, what's up folks? How's it going? This is Waj. I hope you guys are all doing well. And in this video, we're going to be doing a direct head-to-head tablet comparison between probably two of the most anticipated tablets of the year. I'm certainly talking about the new iPad Pro versus the Microsoft Surface Pro 4. So what we're going to do is take a look at the internal and external specifications, take a look at the capabilities of what both of these two large form factor tablets have to offer. So perhaps some of you guys are interested in actually using this as a laptop replacement. We'll see which tablet offers the most for your money. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Now, obviously the iPad Pro and indeed the Surface comes in multiple different models. Now, we actually have the most economical choices. We're comparing the $799 32GB version of the iPad Pro versus the base model of the Surface Pro 4, which retails for about $899 and comes with the Intel Core M processor. Now, unfortunately, the keyboard on both models is a separate purchase. On the iPad Pro, you can go for the Apple Smart Keyboard, which retails for a hefty $170. And I think you should probably get the keyboard that I have, which is the Logitech keyboard, which is fully backlit and a little bit easier to type on. Although it's a little bit more hefty and thicker than the Apple keyboard, it is going to save you a couple of extra bucks, retailing for about $150. Additionally, if you want to use the Apple Pencil for the iPad Pro, you're going to have to get that separately as well. It's another $100 for that. And since the Surface Pen actually comes included with your Surface Pro 4 for that $899 price tag, really they're both pretty much identical in terms of the price point. And of course, if you do want the new Surface Pro 4 type cover, it is a little bit more reasonably priced at $130 opposed to the $170 that Apple wants you to pay for their keyboard. Now, if you want to use a stylus and if you prefer that over your fingers, one of the great things about both tablets is that both stylus are really optimized for the hardware and they're specifically designed for the displays themselves. So they're extremely responsive and ergonomically both pens fit perfectly in your hand like any other pen or pencil would. Now, Microsoft has been really perfecting their stylus on the Surface Pro lineup of tablets, and this is their best ever. It actually has over 1024 levels of pressure sensitivity, and the display on the Surface is actually using something called Pixel Sense technology, which can actually determine what's being contacted with the screen, whether that's your finger or your stylus, and it'll initiate a command according to that information. Furthermore, since the Surface Pro 4 is running a full entire Windows operating system, it becomes really crucial to use the pen, especially if you want to initiate a specific command with smaller icons, since the resolution is so high, and the pen becomes pretty crucial if you want to use the full application library that Windows has to offer. Now, the Apple Pencil is just as effective as the Surface Pen, and it has multiple levels of pressure sensitivity. Additionally, there's a couple of tilt sensors built into the tip of the Apple Pencil, and this can actually calculate the exact orientation and the angle of your hands, so therefore you can write a little bit more naturally, and you could do things like shade in your drawings or get different brushstroke effects with the different tools that you have out there with some of your applications. So this is really fantastic for a lot of digital artists that want to use a tablet for any kind of sketch work or do any kind of painting. Since this is such a powerful tool, this is really optimal for those type of users. Now, in terms of the battery performance, you have about 12 hours of time on the Apple Pencil, and charging is pretty easy. It just has a lightning connector at the end of the pencil, which you can connect to your iPad in order to get charged up. And charging is pretty fast. You can get up to 30 minutes in just 15 seconds of charge time, which is pretty darn insane. The Surface Pen actually has about a year's worth of battery life, which is kind of cool, but I'm not sure what's going to happen when the battery actually dies because it's actually not user replaceable. Now, let's go over the keyboards on both computers. Starting with the Surface Pro 4, the new type cover is absolutely fantastic. They've pretty much perfected their type cover design. You have really good key spacing. The keycaps themselves are nice and large. You have a nice amount of key travel, so typing is very comfortable, and it's a fully functional keyboard that's fully backlit as well. And in addition to that, you have a fairly large trackpad, so this is kind of a perfect laptop replacement from a functional standpoint. Now, the Logitech keyboard for the iPad Pro is also fairly easy to type on. The key spacing is very good, very comfortable. You have a nice amount of key travel as well. One of the nice things about this particular particular keyboard is that it is fully backlit, so that matches on what the Surface Pro can do. And of course, you don't have a trackpad on this keyboard, which does make sense because iOS is not really designed for any kind of mouse cursor interface. Your primary mode of navigation is through touch or through the Surface Pen. Now, physically side by side, you can see that the iPad Pro is slightly larger in terms of its height and width, which does make sense because it does have thicker borders and a slightly larger overall screen, measuring about 12.9 inches versus the Surface Pro 4 measures about 12.3 inches. But from the profile perspective, you can actually see that the iPad Pro is quite a bit thinner than the Surface, measuring only about 6.9 millimeters versus about 8.45 millimeters on the Surface side, and it's also quite a bit lighter, measuring about 730 grams for the Wi-Fi version versus the Surface Pro 4 measures about 766 grams. Now, the iPad Pro in terms of ports and connectivity options is pretty much identical to every other iPad out there. You basically have a headphone jack and a lightning connection, and that's about it. Although you do have 4 speakers now on the Pro, which is not only better in terms of audio quality from the conventional iPad, but I think it sounds better than the speakers we have on the Surface. Now, the Surface Pro 4 is pretty good in terms of its overall connectivity. Obviously, we have full USB 3.0 connection. We also have a DisplayPort connection if you want to output your video, and we have a micro SD expansion slot located right behind the kickstand. Now, in terms of cameras, both have front and rear cameras, but the quality on the Surface Pro 4 from the front-facing side is a little bit better at 5 megapixels stills with 1080p video versus you have 720p video and stills that are around 1.2 megapixels on the iPad Pro side. At the back, both are pretty much equal at 8 megapixels and 1080p video at 30 FPS. Now, at center stage, the displays on both these two devices are absolutely stunning. Some of the best displays that you're going to find on any computing device in the market right now. Now, in terms of the actual resolution, starting with the iPad Pro, it has a native resolution of a 2048 by 2732, giving it a PPI count about 264. Now, the Surface Pro 4 has a resolution of 1824 by 2736, giving it a PPI count of about 267. So in terms of the actual sharpness and clarity, the resolution is actually quite similar on both of these according to their screen size, and you have very sharp images, and the actual vibrancy of the colors are very fantastic. We're using LED IPS technology on the iPad, and we're using the Pixel Sense technology on the Surface Pro 4. Both displays, all things considered, are very much on par with each other. From my eyes, there's not really one advantage that one has over the other in terms of its display technology and its overall color rendition, and the viewing experience is quite similar as well. Now, in terms of the software interface, obviously we're using the latest iOS 9 platform on the iPad Pro, which actually has a couple of tricks up its sleeve. Firstly, for those people that want to do split screen multitasking mode, we finally have it in iOS, and basically you can do a couple of different things on it. So if you want to watch a video on one side and play a game or read an article on the other side, you can finally now, which is excellent for those of you guys that want that feature, and it really does make sense with this screen size and resolution. That being said, of course, this is still iOS, and compared to Windows 10, there's really no comparison in terms of functionality and the diversification of the type of work you can do on the Surface Pro 4. The Surface Pro 4 is a full-on computer and is able to do everything that a pretty high-performance desktop computer can do if you get the upper-end models of the Surface Pro 4. So in terms of the actual functionality and the apps library, well, you're really comparing Windows 10 against iOS, and that's really not a fair comparison. So really, they're kind of different products in that regard. It would have been awesome to have perhaps Mac OS 10 on the iPad. I'm not sure how that would work at this point, but I'm sure down the road there's probably going to be an operating system that's going to blend the functionality and all the capabilities of OS 10 with the ease of use of iOS. And until that happens, this will be a more representative comparison. Now, moving on, let's talk about the internal hardware and performance of both these two tablets. Now, the iPad Pro is using a custom-designed dual-core chip that's clocked about 2.2 gigahertz. It also has a motion coprocessor, which handles a lot of secondary calculations. And in terms of memory, we have 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is pretty high for an iOS device, and 32 gigabytes of internal storage based on this $799 version. Now, the base model of the Surface Pro 4 that we have comes with the Intel Core M3 processor that's that's clocked about 1.52 gigahertz, and this is a dual-core chip like the Apple, but it has hyper-threading enabled, so it actually has 4 threads that the operating system uses. And in terms of graphics, it has integrated HD 515 graphics, and memory-wise, you're looking at 4 gigabytes of RAM, just like the iPad Pro, and it has about 128 gigabytes of internal solid-state memory, which is a lot more than what you get with the cheapest version of the iPad. Now, just for fun, let's do a little bit of benchmarking to actually see which hardware is faster on both these two models. We're going to pull up Geekbench, which is going to test out our CPU performance, and here are the results over here. Basically, on the iPad Pro side, it's actually really fast in terms of the single core performance, scoring over 3,200 points, and it's almost 1,000 points faster than the Surface Pro 4 on the multi-core side of things as well. So the new Apple A9X is an absolute beast and can certainly destroy this very simple version of the Intel Core M3 processor. Now, just for fun, taking a look at the graphical performance of both these two tablets using 3D Mark, you are getting a higher graphical score of over 56,000 points on the Surface Pro 4 side versus you're just over 50,000 points on the iPad Pro. So in terms of the graphical capabilities, looks like the integrated graphics we have on the Intel Core M3 processor is faster than what we have on the Apple A9X. Now, last but not least, let's talk battery life. Now, in terms of actual capacity, both are actually very similar. You have 38.5 watt-hour rechargeable battery on the iPad Pro versus about 39 watt-hour battery on the Surface Pro 4. And both technically should get you around 10 hours of web browsing and real-world usage. But I want to do my own performance test, so I just did a video loop test. I put a video on both tablets and just looped it until they ran out of juice. And here are the results over here. Basically, the Surface Pro 4 ran out of juice at around 7 hours 38 minutes versus the iPad Pro impressively went up to 9 hours 23 minutes. So in most cases, you can definitely expect to get better battery life on your iPad Pro versus what you're going to get on the Surface Pro 4 side. And that's fairly understandable since iOS is fairly power efficient and definitely doesn't use as many system resources as full-on Windows 10 does on the Surface Pro 4 side. But really, on that, guys, that's really it. Definitely let me know what you guys think of the whole comparison video. Do you think the iPad Pro is worth it compared to what the Surface Pro 4 has to offer? Certainly in terms of a functional standpoint, the capabilities of the Surface Pro 4 far beyond exceed what the iPad can do because it's running the iOS platform, which is fine in terms of some of the basic apps, but just the fact that you're running a full-on Windows operating system gives you unlimited capabilities on the Surface Pro 4 side. But definitely let me know. I think the integration on the iOS side is really nice. The hardware and software on the iPad work tremendously well together, but it also works pretty good on the Surface Pro 4 side. So definitely let me know what you guys think. Give us a thumbs up if you like this video, helped you out in any way, and check out the description for all the detailed information about each product. But thanks again for watching. We'll see you later. Take care.